cactus and succulent growers, I'm Lee and welcome to Desert Plants of Avalon in the north of Ireland. And in today's video I'm going to be repotting my Copiapoa montana, which is this wacky beauty here. Before I repot it, I'm going to talk a little bit about the history about this Copiapoa montana and also how I care for it. Now, I've had this particular Copiapoa now, this Copiapoa montana, for well over, I would say 25, 26 years. I was in my early 20s when I got this from a garden centre called Knockcuts when I used to live in England. And when I got it, it was just a little, just like one of these. It was more of a globular shape, and over the years it has got bigger and bigger. This is the main growing tip here, and it has formed all of these offshoots over the years. In fact, that's one where I've removed an offshoot, and that's one there from that the mother plant. So it's growing very, very well, and it flowers the most gorgeous flowers during the spring and summer months. Gorgeous yellow flowers with lovely little filaments inside them, like little stars. It twinkles. It's absolutely gorgeous bloom. And if you want to see what this particular cactus, this one here, actually looks like when it's in flower, then I have made a video a few years ago now, of this Copiapoa montana in bloom, and you must go and watch it to see how gorgeous the flower is, and I'll link the video up above. Do go and watch it after this one. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the care. Now, Copiapoas are a cacti from Chile. They like to have as much sunshine as you can. They love a sunny position, a very well draining cactus soil, keeping completely dry over the winter months, and they can be quite cold hardy if you keep them dry over the winter at a minimum degree of 5 Celsius, 41 degree Fahrenheit. So I won't water this. The last watering I'd give it will be in sort of the middle of September, and then I won't give this any watering then to the middle of April. I have given this a water the other day, and it sort of fattened out, filled out quite nicely, but it's dried out completely again now. But before I do start it with a bit more watering again, I'm going to repot it, mainly because it needs a fresh soil. The roots aren't coming through the bottom, but it definitely needs a fresh soil, because this hasn't bloomed for me for the past 3 years or so, and I think a good repot into fresh soil will really give it a bit of a bloom. And obviously I like to use tomato feed with every third watering I give them in the spring and summer. And as I say, this hasn't bloomed for the past 3 years for me, but sometimes when cacti get either too in need of a fresh repot, they refuse to bloom, and also if you overpot them, they can refuse to bloom. So just like people, they can be a bit fussy if they don't have the right requirements, but I think a bit of a repot will give this a bit of a boost. And it does grow like this. This is the shape of it, and the propagation is from the little offsets that they grow here. You can either twist them and pull them off, or you can cut them with a sharp scalpel, protecting your hands of course, and just removing in. Let one of these callus for a few days until it's formed a dry callus at the end. Then pot it up and treat it as a cutting, as I have done with this one here. And obviously keep a lookout for pests such as spider mite and mealybugs. Spider mite, I find, is the biggest pest with this. It has had spider mite in the past, which is what you can see here. This is very unsightly, but that's all sort of past spider mite damage from many years ago, and that sort of encouraged this to send off all these offshoots as well. So sometimes these pests can be little blessings in disguise when they make the cactus look a little bit more unique and unusual. So that's a little bit about this cactus, how I care for it. So I'm going to take it upstairs now and give it a fresh repot. So here I am in my office, and obviously I've got the next size pot up. I always like to just go up one size up when I'm repotting cacti, and the reason for that is if I repot them into too big of a pot and there's a lot of soil in there, when you water them, they're not going to dry out as quickly. They're only going to need as much soil around their roots as they need. Unlike their natural habitats that dry out very quickly, they don't dry out so quick when they're in a pot. So I've made a very well draining cactus and succulent mix here that I use with a lot of my cacti and succulents. Very important to use a well draining soil mix, especially with Copiapoa, because they have tuberous roots, and I'll show you the tuberous root system on this when I repot it. So they can be very rot prone if you use a soil that is not well draining. So it needs to be free like this and in your hands, so it's loose soil. And I've used a soil mix of about 3 equal parts of a loam based soil. I'm using Johnny List number 2, mixed with pumice and horticultural sharp sand, and just giving it a little bit of a mix in there as well. And put a little bit of soil at the bottom of the pot there, as you can see. Now, I would normally recommend, suggest obviously protecting your hands. I'm used to handling cacti. This one as well, I can handle it quite easily. So it is quite sharp, but not overly sharp for me to handle. But bear in mind, if you're new to handling cacti, protect your hands with some sheets of newspaper or thin card, because you don't want to get stabbed. But as I say, I'm okay. Loosen around the pot here, the root ball. Like very carefully. Oh, now look at that. As you can see there, a lot of the, that's the tuberous root there. That's the big tuber. And even the roots that come off are very tuberous. But it looks like it doesn't really have any of the fine little hairs on this. Now, there's a few around there, as you can see. Normally with the tuber there, you get all the fine hairs coming off. So it looks like it's lost quite a bit of its roots. But it's got a lovely, healthy, fat tuber. So when I repot this, when I repot cacti anyway, I never water them for the first 10 days. Because obviously roots get disturbed, and I like to let them settle into the new pot to let any roots heal over before watering. But with this, I'm going to leave it a little bit longer, because obviously there isn't really any signs of new roots coming on there. When I watered it, it did fatten up though, so it's taken in water somehow. So yep, this bit here, I'm just going to very loosely lighten up the soil here, just to loosen it up, and a lot of the soil has come away. This here, it's not rotting, don't worry. This is due to natural corking. And as I say, this is a very old Copiapoa that I've had for over 25 years. So this is natural to get this natural brown woodiness. It's not soft or anything like that. So that's quite normal there. I'm going to keep all the pups on there because I like how it looks. You can see it's very woody, no problem there. So I'm just going to loosen up this part here very carefully. As I say, all the soil has come off this anyway, that lovely big fat tuber. I'm just going to use a blunt little stick here and just gently tease away some of this soil. I'm using practically the same soil anyway, but I just want to loosen this up. But I'm going to be very careful with this, and I think I might just leave that as it is here. As I say, it's coming away quite easy there. I'm not going to disturb it too much. There we go. But it's got a lovely fat tuber, so that's going to do well here in the new soil. And I think that's as much as I'm going to go. Always good, obviously, to check there's no signs of root mealybugs and pests like that, but that's fine. It just needs to regrow a lot of its fine little root hairs again. So that's got the healthy fat tuber there. There'll be no problem. So I'm going to very carefully put a bit of soil at the bottom, as I mentioned. Carefully resting that in like that. And now I'm going to put a soil around. I'll just move this away so you can see what I'm doing here. Oops. Carefully place it into the middle. And putting all that soil all around the edges here. That Copiapoa, it's not a one that you see as common in collections, and it's not a cactus that's particularly easy to find for sale either. But this is one, as I say, I got from a garden centre. I say this cactus is 25. It's over 25 years because I got it over 25 years ago. But it was a little small one when I got it. So that could even be why it's not been flowering. Maybe the roots haven't been that brilliant. And although I always use a very well draining soil, you can clearly see a lot of the root hairs are missing from the tuber. So this will have to be extremely careful with this when I start the watering. So as I mentioned, I never water cacti when I've repotted them for the first week or two. But I'm going to leave this one even a little bit longer. Probably leave it 3 weeks. Won't be a problem. And then I'll give it a very slight watering when I start it up with its next watering. I don't want to go too heavy with the watering. As I mentioned, the tuber does not have the little fine roots on it. So that's why it's always good to regularly repot cacti as well. They might look like they're doing okay in the pot, but if you haven't repotted them for a few years, it's good to freshen up the soil and see if there's any problems going on. But this will be absolutely fine. Just want to gently tuck all the soil in the sides. Ooh, that's it all done. And it's going to grow lovely now in its nice pot. More space for it as well. So it's going to hopefully flower in the very near future again. If you haven't done already, then don't forget to subscribe. Do click the notification bell. You can follow me on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook at Desert Plants of Avalon. And do check my website out, desertplantsofAvalon.com. I want to wish you all a fantastic cactus-powered day. Thank you for repotting me.